Yes, so let's get in right away. For all those who have joined, just drop an emoji on the chat. Let me know that you're still here and you're excited to start. So, good day, everyone, from wherever you're watching from. I assume that most of the people watching are from Nigeria. Yes, I assume so. So that would be evening, 4 p.m. your time. So today, the major reason why we're here today is to give you a space to, ask your questions. First of all, to get to know about Brazil. Uh, why Brazil? Why is Brazil becoming an option now? Or what does studying in Brazil entail? So note that this channel and the content here are basically about studying in Brazil. So for those seeking maybe visitors visas, asylums, and all other different kinds of visas. We focus more on study. Here we focus more on studying in Brazil. So let's dive right in. So Brazil is a country in South America. I'm sure that by now many of us already know that Brazil is a country in Southern America, and it shares this continent with other countries like Chile, like Argentina, Colombia, so many other countries. However, Brazil is a superpower in Southern America. In the continent of Southern America, Brazil is a superpower, meaning that it has a lot of economic power. So it's the strongest country in South America in terms of economic power, in terms of land mass. In fact, Brazil takes up about 60% of the land mass of South America. So it's very, very big. Brazil, it's in terms of size, Brazil is very big. In terms of population as well, Brazil is home to about 230 million people, thereabout. Yeah. So also in terms of population, they are also a superpower. So let's talk about in terms of why we're here, in terms of study. Because most times when you mention study, a lot of people think about America, about Europe, and some parts of Asia maybe, but a lot of people do not think to South America. And I think there are some reasons why people do not normally think about Southern America when they plan to go for their studies. One of the reasons I can think of immediately is the issue of language. Yes, because countries in Southern America do not speak English as their official language, right? So majority of the countries, about 80 to 90% of the countries in Southern America speak Spanish, and then Brazil, and I think one or two other countries speak Portuguese. So we have majority of Spanish speakers and then Portuguese in Brazil. And so this is one of the reasons why I think a lot of people may not consider this as a very viable option. But today I'm here to let you know that despite the language differences, Brazil can become a viable option for you. We all know what's going on around the world, the issues of politics, especially in terms of international students, in terms of migration. We can see the US changing a lot of its laws, closing a lot of doors, that were before now used by international students, to come in and study and, come in legally and have, a legal migration opportunity. So most of those opportunities are getting closed up. And then Europe also, you have places like the United Kingdom doing the same. You have France, you have Germany, some of these countries are changing their laws and their rules, making it a little bit more tight and so these are some reasons why you may consider looking to Brazil as a place for study, and if it is part of your plan, relocation as well. Um, Another reason why I think that a lot of people do not like to look to Brazil or South America as a whole is that there is this feeling of lower quality in terms of education, but it is not so. Brazilian public universities rank very high on the global scale. Most of the public universities in Brazil rank between 100 and 300 in terms of global rankings, right? Between 100 and 300 in terms of global rankings. So most of their public schools are within this range, which is very, very good. They are very competitive education if you compare it on a global scale, much more competitive than many countries in Africa and Asia. So these are some reasons why I think okay, a lot of people do not consider Brazil. Now, apart from the changing laws in the United States, in Europe, that are making them less and less of a viable option, there are other challenges that those countries have that Brazil does not have. All right. So there are other places where there are other countries that you have all these challenges. One of the challenges that I see in many other countries that are not in Brazil are things like high tuition and living costs. For instance, in the United States, for you to get a PhD, if you are not on scholarship, you are going to be spending about $100,000 to $200,000 to get a scholarship, to get a PhD study, and then maybe a little bit less for a master's program. So imagine spending that kind of money, to get a PhD, and then when you are done, if you are not from a country that has, if you are not, if your accounts is not very buoyant, then you're going to live with a deficit at the end of the day. You're going to maybe go into debt, or so it's quite challenging for those coming from low income countries, low income families, and education should be something that everyone should be able to access regardless of your background. So that's personally what I believe, that, and even the UNESCO places education, quality education, as one of the basic human rights. So it's critical that you look to a place that suits your budget, that suits your own personal conditions. So also, in terms of visa issues, post-study work permits, trying to get an American visa, if you have ever tried it before, you have an idea of how stressful and draining it can be trying to get an American visa. However, Brazil shines bright in that area as well. So the first point I talked about is the issue of tuition. All public universities in Brazil are tuition free. Let me say it again. All public universities in Brazil, any university that is owned by the government, be it the federal government or the state government, they are tuition free, meaning that you do not have to pay tuition at all. So it's important to note that. So if you're coming for undergraduate, for masters, for PhD, as long as the school is a public university, you do not have to pay tuition. So that already removes a lot of financial stress from you as a student. So imagine comparing $100,000, in the US, and then $0 in Brazil, and you're getting a very highly competitive education as well. Another point where Brazil shines bright is in the area of diversity, let's say cultural diversity. If you step out, no matter which part of the world you are coming from, if you're coming from the United States, coming from Europe, coming from Asia, coming from Africa, it doesn't matter where you are coming from. If you step out of on the streets of Sao Paulo, if you step out on the streets of Brasilia, you step out on any, any state in Brazil, it is 95%, you look like the people who are already there. That's the point I'm trying to make. So you don't stand out really in any way. You don't really stand out. It's very difficult for someone to know that, okay, this person is just came in from Asia yesterday, or you just came in from Nigeria yesterday, So that already creates, a kind of, you can feel free, you can feel at home, you don't stand out in any way, you're just like every normal person on the street. So Brazil has that diversity, in terms of people. So you can see a Brazilian now, and the person, blue eyes, blonde hair, the entire European future, Caucasian, and that person is 100% Brazilian. You can see someone, with Asian features, and the person is also 100% Brazilian. You can see someone that looks like an African, but the person can also be 100% Brazilian. So I consider this an advantage, that, being in a place where you do not stand out, your looks do not stand out for any reason, in a world now that is highly polarized, where there's a lot of rhetoric around race, around, migration and all that. I personally consider that as a good advantage to consider studying in Brazil. Brazil also has one of the top economies in the world. I just checked the rankings now, and I can see that uh, Brazil is number ninth position in the world when it comes to nominal ranking. That is the cash value of Brazil. And when you even when you compare it with uh, purchasing power parity, which is a better economic scale of comparing countries, Brazil still, in fact, it even does better. It ranks number 8 in the world. So economically, Brazil is there, top 10 in the world, and it has constantly maintained this position for the last decades, the last few decades. And it's not going to change anytime soon. In fact, the projections are that it's going to even become better. Looking at all the trade wars, and the realignment of economies here and there, geopolitics, formation of BRICS, and all that. If you follow the news clearly, you understand what I'm talking about. Brazil is a leader in terms of agriculture, in terms of environmental sciences, in terms of engineering, health, and even the social sciences. So whichever field you are from, whether you are STEM professional or you are from the humanities, the social sciences, Brazil has a very strong academic base for all this. So we've talked about the economy, we've talked about issues of cultural blending in. We have talked about cost of education. We have talked about globally competitive universities. And then in line with that, Brazil has a lot of opportunities for research, academic opportunities. So if you want to come for a postdoctorate, there are chances for that. In fact, recently, there was a program, maybe I'll look for the details later, I'll put it in the description. There was a program where Brazil opened up partnership with universities all over the world. So if you are an academic, you teach in a university or you do research in a university, there's a kind of a partnership that Brazil opened up to enable researchers from other countries come in and do research with them, a kind of a partnership with them, and it was very wonderful and fully funded by the government. Brazil also offers government scholarships. I'm sure a lot of us will be interested in this. They are government scholarships. One of the most popular ones is called GCUB. GCUB. The GCUB is it's a kind of alliance between countries in Southern America and even outside of Southern America, but it began as an alliance between countries in Southern America, where they all agreed that they are going to be sending students from countries, within the continent to study at each other's, universities, just to promote some kind of intracontinental integration. So, it began as that, and then it later became expanded to people from outside the continent as well. So, whichever continent you are from, you are eligible to apply for the GCUB scholarship. It opens every year around, I think that should be around June. Yeah, something like that, around May, June, thereabout. I would cross-check the final dates, and I'll make another video actually about how to apply for the GCUB scholarship. So that scholarship provides living expenses for you. It provides, it helps you to be able to, it helps you to be able to have be once you get the scholarship, you're in Brazil, you're able to have something to take care of yourself, and you can be okay. You're not paying for tuition, and you also you also have your living expenses covered, right? So it's more like a very complete package. So for those coming from low resource countries, or you have a very tight budget, this is something I think you should seriously consider doing. So let's move on. Why else are we looking at considering Brazil? Now, in many universities in Brazil, you do not have to get a supervisor beforehand. It is not necessary. Can it be helpful? Yes. But is it required? No. You can absolutely get study. You can absolutely get even a scholarship. You can get your admission without contacting or knowing any professor. So that is also another thing I consider an advantage. If you have ever applied for postgraduate studies in the United States or in some European countries before, you understand what I'm talking about, where they require you to contact a supervisor, get his approval. That means both of you need to have rubbed minds for a while. You need to, that supervisor is somebody that maybe you have seen that his work is in alignment with what you are also trying to do or with your field. And then you email the person. If the person finds your work interesting, the person responds. If he doesn't, you may not hear from him. So it can become a hustle trying to get a supervisor many times. But in Brazil, that is not required. You just apply. Once you have identified your department, this is the department that is closest to what I have a background in, right? You apply. Once the applications are open, you put in your application, you get all your documents, send them, follow instructions very carefully, and apply. And the department will look through, and then you will be assessed. And if you meet the requirements, then you get your admission. So there are fewer bureaucratic processes at the beginning. To enter is relatively easier. That's the point of what I'm saying, right? It's relatively easier to enter. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is language. Brazil speaks Portuguese as their official language. This language is used for all official communication in Brazil. So government communication, schooling, all the schooling from nursery, pre-nursery, all the way up to the university, all the way to PhD level is done in Portuguese in many public universities, right? So this can become something that makes a lot of people to reconsider. However, in the last 5 years or so, if my research is correct, Brazil has been trying to open up more, has been trying to become more of an international destination. So we have now a few universities, a few departments that are able to provide courses in English, but I must say that they are still very few at the moment, right? So majority of what you're going to find is studies offered in Portuguese language. All right. But that should not be a challenge because the way the world is structured right now, there are lots of opportunities to learn languages from anywhere you are. So if you are interested in coming to Brazil, it doesn't matter when you want to come. If you want to come in the next 6 months, if you want to come in the next 5 years, it doesn't matter. Start learning Portuguese now. That's the best advice I can give. Start learning Portuguese as soon as you make up your mind that Brazil is a place you want to consider. This also applies to Portugal as well. So, if you want to come to Brazil, start learning Portuguese. There are many apps, and many online tools you can learn. Create a schedule, just at least the basics. At least the basics. Know how to greet. Know how to request for something. Just get the basics. It's very important. Once you come in, you can always upgrade and become better in the language. But it's important that before you come in, you get the basics. That will go a very long way to help. So if you have questions, please be putting them in the chat box. I'll soon be done. Then I will attend to whatever questions that are in the chat box. So learning the language it can be daunting, yes, because if you haven't learned a new language before and this is your first time trying to learn a language, it can be a little bit stressful, but I must assure you that it is worth it. It is highly worth it at the end of the day, because gaining an additional language is always an advantage. It's always an advantage. There is no disadvantage in learning a new language, right? And Portuguese is considered one of the top world languages, right? So it's an international language, it's a global language. So learning Portuguese will always be an advantage to you, such that even after your studies, you have more opportunities open to you. However, if you stick with only maybe English or French, depending on where you're watching from, some doors might be shut to you because of language barriers. So it's always great to add a language to your skill set. Brazil also has legal pathways to remain after studies. So if part of your plan is study and remain, Brazil offers you that opportunity as well. Currently, by the laws of the country, staying in the country legally for 4 years places you at the right position to apply for permanent residence, right? So staying in the country for 4 years gives you that opportunity to apply for permanent residence. So at the end of that 4 years, you can apply and then you go through the process. There's requirements. For instance, basic language skills is one of the requirements. And then a few other, basic things. And then, you can get your permanent residence. So this is very good for people who are thinking beyond studies. So if your thinking is, okay, after studies, what next? Brazil gives you an opportunity to stay for long term legally. So you can stay, become a permanent resident, you can work and, do all that. And this is where that language learning also comes into play, because staying back and getting integrated into the society will involve you also learning the language. So Brazil has opportunities not only for researchers, there are lots of opportunities in different walks of life, for after studies. So this is where I would go. I don't want us to be here for so long, and I want to answer questions. I want to take your questions. I will make videos later looking at other aspects of this, but I will be guided by your questions. If you, as soon as if you ask, I will. Okay, there's one question here. Do they provide full scholarship for taught MSc programs that are not research focused only? Yes, yes. Brazil provides such. However, there's a clear distinction to make here. In Brazil, if you are in the sciences, if you are in STEM, let's just put it STEM. If you are in STEM, most of the studies are research-based, right? So it's a little bit different from the United Kingdom, where you can do a course-based master's in a STEM field. It's not very common in Brazil to find course-based masters in STEM fields. So their masters in STEM are usually research-based, right? But the scholarship does not discriminate whichever of the masters you are in. So even if your masters is based on solely based on courses, and or if your masters is in the humanities, social sciences, and all that, you're still eligible. It doesn't. There's no discrimination against that. So that's the response to your question. Yes. Any? Let me see if there are more questions. Okay. There are no further questions for now. All right. So if you have your questions, I can still use the next 2-3 minutes to get your get your questions if you have any that you would like to ask. So one more thing before I go, Brazil is a country that I don't know, maybe for compared to some other countries, their processing of documents, in terms of like visa application or other official documents, are done, strictly based on their discretion, right? So the reason why I'm saying this is if Brazil is of interest to you, you're interested that at some point in time, within the next 1 year, within the next 2 years, you would be considering Brazil, then it's great to start uh, preparation now. It's great to start preparation early. It's great to start preparing very, very early. There are some very basic documents, very basic things that you need to start preparing to come to Brazil, so that whenever you are ready, it will be very easy for you to, get into the process. So I will drop a link to the group. There is a WhatsApp group that I have created to guide you to show you what you need to prepare and all that. If you are not yet a member of the group and you're here, put the link in the description box. You can join the group, and there we can, discuss further, and we can talk about your peculiar situations. And if you need personalized guidance, if you need one-on-one consultation and guidance, it's also available at a fee. So all this we can discuss as soon as you are a member of the group. So in the absence of any other further question, I think this will be it. So join the group, and then we continue the conversation from there. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined this live. I can see some people have joined and have stayed from the beginning till now. I appreciate your time. Ciao. See you in the group.